and that will mean that we're able to share it with you afterwards. So welcome again to everyone who's joined us today for the Entrepreneurial Mindset Taster. This is a taster of the Business Management and Leadership part-time programme that the Lifelong Learning Centre runs. My name's Olivia Garvey, and the session today is going to be led by Louise Kilburn and Joel, who are both tutors on the programme, and we're also going to hear from two of our students about halfway through, Jason and John, who very kindly joined us today to share their experience or as mature students studying part-time. Towards the end of the session, you'll get more information about the course itself, a bit of an overview and a breakdown of how it's taught, and then there'll be lots of opportunities to ask questions, but we do want your participation throughout, and hopefully Jenny's outline will have shown you how to do that. So I'm going to hand over now to Louise and Joel to begin the taster part of the session.
Hi everyone, welcome to the session. My name's Louise. My colleague Joel is going to run the speed friending session. Say hi, Joel.
Hello, can everybody hear me? That's not promising. Oh, there we go, hooray. Good to know that it's working, marvellous. Brilliant, so obviously this session is a little bit different to the kinds that we normally run. That said, we feel that it's important to try and give you all as normal an experience as possible given the circumstances. We're acutely aware that university isn't just about the academic side, important though it is, but there's also a social element as well, and that you'll be throughout your time at university be looking to your peers for encouragement, support, and let's be quite honest, friendship. So with that in mind, as first step, what we're going to do is something called free speed friending. So you can all get to know one another a little bit, learn about each other motivations, and hopefully make some new friends. So in just a moment, we'll be putting you in what's called breakout groups. These are just smaller little groups so that you can talk to one another without everybody trying to talk on the same line. I'm sure if you've ever done a conference call, you know that how difficult it is if there is more than a handful of people. So we'll put you in small groups. What we'd like you to do then, once you're in your little groups, is to introduce yourself, say a little bit about yourself, and discuss what is it you'd like to get out of this session? What is it that you hope to get out of today? So we will be circulating and dropping into these little rooms, so you can ask any questions that you may have at this stage, and to sort of listen to listen to what your motivations are for and what you want to get out of this session.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Are we all back nearly now? I think we're all nearly back.
Let you know, Becky, I think she's just joined now. She's only just joined the session, so just to let you know.
Sorry, I'm having a lot of technical issues.
Is that everybody back in the room who's supposed to be?
Yeah, I think so, Joel.
Marvellous.
I'll just move it on to the next slide then.
Okay.
No, I won't because there's a slide missing. But anyway, right, okay, let's just feedback. So from my group, there was a discussion. Well, when I say discussion, there was a lot of technical difficulties, but Alex wanted to do something a little bit different. She's been out of work for a little while, so she wanted to join the taster session to be able to see what she could potentially do in the future. We then had, we've got William, who wanted just to know about different entrepreneurial skills that are needed. And I think, I can't remember who said it. Let me just have a look at the list. It was Faith or Bindi said, looking at the course content and work opportunities after graduating, and also is it okay to apply now? So we can answer some of those questions, can't we, Joel? Yeah. So what about you?
Really, we had a range of sort of motivations in terms of why people were doing things. I shan't embarrass anybody by pointing out individual examples, but we have had some people wanted simply to gain the new skills to move up in their career and to move along. We've had some people who wanted to just sort of get as much as they possibly can out of this, so to see what the module is like and to just gain more skills and have a challenge. Some people wanted some more specific skills, so really a range of motivations in terms of what they'd like to get out of the course.
Good. Anybody else in different groups? Hello?
We were on our own in a group. It was Claire and me, Louise, so I haven't got anything to report back, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll just have a think on the whiteboard here. So if you use the T above the slide, what skills at the moment do you think you need to become an entrepreneur? If you just start typing in the box, and I'll just start us off. Yeah, drive. Good. Taking risks, confidence, enthusiasm. Communication skills. Yeah, being organised, intelligence. Yeah, an idea, good. Positive thinking, networking skills.
Sorry, how do you type? It won't let me do it.
So there's on top of the slide, there's a big T.
Oh yeah.
You see the big T, yeah. So if you just click that and then just anywhere on the slide there.
Ah, sorry, I've done it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, listening skills, vision, thinking outside the box, good, lateral thinking, forward thinking, management skills. There's some really good ideas here.
I'm liking management skills.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, admin skills, definitely. Planning, some really good ideas here. Inspiration, knowledge of self, good. Yeah, communication, inspiration, keeping up to date. Wow, there's loads here. This is fantastic. Do you know what? You all sound like entrepreneurs already. Super. Well, we're just going to do a little quiz just to see. Yeah, tenacity, good one. I like that one. Just to see. It's a really fun quiz. Okay, so Joel's I'm going to show you a video. So what you need to do, I'm just going to show you the instructions. Is you're going to watch the video with us, and you need a pen and a paper, and you're going to jot down your answers. Now the answers can only be A or B. Now it's a really fast video, so I'm going to be pausing it at appropriate times so that you can all have time just to jot down your answers. Now if it's going too fast, then you need to just pop your hand up. I don't know why you can't see anything, Marina. Maybe Jenny or Olivia can maybe help you with that. Okay, so I'm going to put the video on now. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start this now. So just make sure you've got a pen and a bit of paper, write down your answers and make sure you engage with the quiz so that you can find out whether you're right-brained or left-brained. So starting now. Right, I'm just going to take that back a little bit, sorry. So that first one, which was the dancer, if it is going clockwise, you're going to be writing down B, and if it's anti-clockwise, you'll write down A. So I'm just going to show you that video, that bit of the dancer again, just so you can see again. Right, here you're going to draw a Q on your forehead with your finger. So get ready to draw a Q on your head. Which direction did you draw it? If it was outward, write down B, and if it was inward, write down A. Now you're going to cross your legs. Which leg is on top? Is it left or right? If your left leg is on top, it's B. If your right is on top, it's A. So this is about art pieces. So you're going to choose the one you like more. A or B? Just drop your answer down. A or B? A or B? Now fold your hands, just like that man showing you there. If your thumb, if your left thumb on top, it's B. If your right thumb is on top, it's A. Now think about your desk, whether it's at home or at work. What's it look like? Is it like that? Or is it like that? So I'm just going to show you that bit again. Hold on a minute. So that is B, and that is A. How do you then take your notes? If you're jotting things down, how do you take your notes? If it looks like that or a little bit like that, then it's A. And if it looks like that with diagrams and flowcharts, it's B. Now, add up how many A's and how many B's you've got. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that. So if you have more B's, you are right-brained. Right-brained people are visual, outspoken, artistic, impulsive, intuitive, daydreamers, disorganized. And if you've got mostly A's, you are left-brained. Verbal, logical, structured, neat, analytical, good at languages, imaginative. An equal number, you have not got a strong dominant side, you have attributes of both left and right. So I'm just going to share the slides with you. Somebody can bring the slides back.
I was going to say, I was looking at that for you as well. Okay, so whilst we're bringing that back up, you might be thinking, so what's with the exercise? So a big part of leadership, management, and entrepreneurship is people in one way or the other. Being able to understand people, the way that they operate and their motivations, things like that, is fundamental to be able to operate any successful enterprise, as well as managing people within an enterprise. Unfortunately, as some of you might possibly be aware, people are generally quite complex. They're not particularly easy to understand, and understanding them isn't always the easiest task, unfortunately. Fortunately, however, and you'll see in the management literature and the management courses, there are a number of sort of models and techniques that we can use in order to demystify this somewhat. So one way we can do this is sort of issuing quizzes and surveys like the one that you've just seen as sort of a diagnostic tool in order to categorize people and the way that they think and the way that they operate. So it's important. Sorry, yes?
Sorry, I just wanted to get some feedback from the students about what they were.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Okay, so yeah, sorry, Munira. I did try and pause it. So yeah, so you've got 6 Bs and 2 As. Yeah. Let's have a look at this chat here. Left-brained, right? Okay, 6 As, 6 Bs, 5B, 4A. Last one's down to all B. Good. So looks like, yeah, right-brained. Good. Anybody else? Did anybody else do it? Did you find? Was anybody looking at you when you were actually drawing a Q on your head?
I didn't get the cue.
You didn't get the Q.
I didn't understand how you could compare what you did, what they were saying.
Okay, so if you draw a Q on your head, if it's pointing outward, it was the other side. So it's a little bit at the bottom, you know, like your Q and you're drawing. If it's outward, I can't remember what the video said now, but if it's outward, it's either B or A and vice versa. So it depends on how you draw the Q on your head. Did everybody else manage to get that? Yeah, it's the direction the Q's tail pointed. Thanks, Olivia.
I don't know how to write a message either. Sorry.
There's just at the bottom near the cross, the purple cross.
Right.
There's a little speech bubble.
Okay. One, two, three.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. Okay. 7B, 2A. Brilliant. And crossing your legs, clockwise direction. Okay. Good. Okay. Sorry, Joel. I just wanted to get some feedback from the students as to how they are left and right brained. So please do feel free to carry on. Hopefully this, what Joel's going to explain to you now, will help you to understand how you can use left and right brains in business in terms of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no problem. So, is my mic still on? Yes. Okay. Yeah, what we can do therefore is sort of issue these quizzes not only to yourself in terms of understanding what your own potential strengths and weaknesses and areas that you naturally gravitate towards are, but also to see what other people in another organisation or within your organisation have as strengths, and therefore to properly align what people's strengths are with particular tasks. So as an example on this one, can anybody think of a role in an organisation that a particularly creative person might be good at? You can type it in, or if you want to pop your mind on. Oh, there we go. Marketing. Yes, marketing is the, in many senses, the quintessential creative sort of side of the business. Yes, the design and the branding, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are many different areas. about on the right side of the brain? Yes, IT design. So basically anything design, anything creative and user experience. What about on the right side? So sorry, your logical. Sorry, I meant left side. Your logic side. Yep, technician, absolutely. Analysts is an absolutely huge one. Analysts tend to be, more often than not logical. Sorry, the chats are clearing faster than I can get through them. Where did we have? Analysts. Vision of the company, yes. Strategy. In terms of making sure that people and the organisation is pulling in the same direction, it tends to be that logical overarching view. It would be nice if you could run an organisation in sort of creative chaos, but often, unfortunately, that doesn't quite work. Networking and consultancy, that's an interesting one. Yes, to a degree, but the research generally plays out that actually what you want to do is pair up, when it comes to networking, creative people with creative people and logical people with logical people. So it's quite an interesting one about having that match there. But in terms of the organisation of it, yes, you'd want a left brain person. Yes, an accountant, certainly, they tend to be quite logical. You don't want creative accountancy for obvious reasons if you value not going to jail. So yeah, there are various sort of left and right strengths that you might have in your own organisation, skills that you can rely on if you know whether you're likely to gravitate towards one or the other. You can obviously play to those strengths, and if hypothetically, if you were starting up a business, identify weaknesses and hire people that can shore up your shortcomings. So, do you want to?
Yeah, there's also there's also traditionally the majority of entrepreneurs have been logical thinkers, haven't they? Problem solvers, paying attention to detail. But actually, there's been quite a big shift from the knowledge age with its left brain foundation to a more critical focus on visualization, creativity, relationships, and actually, even right brain dominant adults are hard to find. So if some of you are on this, found that you're more right brained, that's really, really good, because it's really hard to find right brain dominant adults. And they say most children start out that way, but after years in school, I think it's something like less than 10% actually retain their really high levels of creativity. So it's interesting that actually you can also train your brain to be creative by using different activities, online. Yes, Alex, you've got your hand up.
I was just going to say that I did one of my answers wrongly.
Okay.
Which means that my results are about equal, so I'm one of those frustrating people that's in the middle.
Yes, well, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. It probably means as well that you can shift quite easily dependent on the task that you're given. So if you're given a very logical task, that requires analytical numbers and language, but then you could then just quite easily shift to something that needs that creativity as well.
Yeah,
that's a really good question, Sarah. What if you're left-handed? Does anybody know the answer to that? Does anybody know what the answer to that is? What if you're left-handed? Okay, well, generally with your left hand and right hand, that's right. If you're left-handed, generally it controls more of your right brain, sorry, vice versa. It's like, but I would argue against that, because even though I'm a right-handed person, that would then say that I'm a left-brained, but actually I'm equal according to that test. Now, please be aware, everyone, that's just a fun test. That's not a scientific test. There are plenty of resources online that you could engage yourself with in terms of finding out a little bit more about right brain, left brain. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're just going to move on to another task. So I'm going to put you into groups again. Hopefully it will work. And if you can't use your audio, then just please do type, because it's important we get everybody engaged. you're going to be given, your group is going to be given £10,000. Have a discussion about what business you would start up. Okay, could be anything at all. So I'm going to give you about 10-15 minutes for this, because obviously you might want to have a bit of a discussion and a chat about what business you would want to start up. And let's just see how creative you can be.
The group I was with, there were various suggestions came out. One was looking at a mobile, well, not mobile restaurant, but doing sandwiches, cakes and things, especially the mobile.
Right.
People couldn't necessarily go into shops or wouldn't want to. And the other thought, which was a different one, was looking at this element of someone doing dressmaking and quilting. Quilting more than anything, because that's something that's quite a niche market.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, brilliant. So our group talked about something to do with social enterprise, a bit more youth and community work. It was found that, you know, there's some areas that are really lacking in this. Maybe find a local hub that's already currently there now. Have more than one thing going on at a time within the hub. Having representation from underrepresented groups, having a skills swap session, learning new skills, and you can make money from renting the rooms out. And then obviously we'll have workers and volunteers coming in, and we pay them, you know, for, you know, a basic amount for their services. So that's what our groups said.
And funnily enough, our group went down a similar line with the social enterprise. We were talking about potentially opening a cafe, and then whether, you know, got into an interesting discussion about whether there is a need to differentiate or not. And then one thing that came out was a pay-as-you-feel sort of style of cafe. And then we got into the discussion of, well, how would you possibly manage that so people didn't exploit it? Because as we've seen with some social enterprises, and particularly the pay as you feel, some have been exceptionally well received and are continuing to be sustainable and do a lot of social good. Others, people have exploited it, and it's got to the point that it's got to close down. So yeah, it was an interesting discussion there.
Yeah, good. That's good. All right, so just ever so quickly, the next slide is again a whiteboard. So what I want you to do here is just think about the skills that you have used just in that very brief session in terms of what you think might be entrepreneurial skills. So I think, for example, my group used creativity. Somebody else put teamwork on there. Any other entrepreneurial skills? Please feel free to type on the board. Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, energetic. Planning, yeah, good. Commitment, yeah. Some good ones here. Money making, yeah, decisive. All these things you do need to be an entrepreneur. So already you are displaying skills that correlate with being an entrepreneur. So that's interesting. Okay, Olivia, is Jason on?
Yep, you're with us, aren't you, Jason? I know you have to go at 2, but if you want to join us now, it'd be lovely to hear a bit of your experience as a mature student.
I am here. I'm okay just after 2, actually. I've just had some feedback saying that I can join the next meeting slightly late, so that's no problem.
Ah, brilliant. Thanks. So over to you, Jason.
Yeah, well, it's been really interesting, actually, well, listening through the different ideas, and I have to say, being presented with £10,000 if I'd have started off years ago when I started on my journey, if I'd had £10,000, I think I'd have probably done something different to what I'm doing now. Yeah, just to give people a bit of feedback of where I started. I mean, I think listening to the people that are on here, I think there's all different age groups on there, which is nice to see. I'm 45 years old, so I've not come straight out of school and gone to college and then gone straight to university. I feel like in many ways I've done things backwards. I also realise now that it's not been a problem. In fact, it's probably been an advantage to me in the business that I'm in. And so I came out of school with very basic qualifications, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Went on to do what was then a YTS, I don't know if they have those anymore, in a vehicle repair workshop, only because a friend of mine was doing it and I didn't really know what else I could do. I very quickly realised that wasn't for me, so I decided to go see a local business that was advertising for a trainee welder stroke fabricator, and I did that for a few years. The chap that I was working for, it was actually a new form business, and unfortunately he was guaranteeing me that he was going to pay for me training and such like, and unfortunately it never arrived. So after about 3 years of doing that job, I realised I was going nowhere. So I decided that I was going to try and do it myself. After that, in that period of time, I'd picked up the role very nicely. And I realised I was actually making all the chaps money. So other than bringing the work in, I was doing everything else myself. So as a sort of early 20s, I very quickly realised that maybe this is something I could do myself. So then I had the problem of, and it comes to the entrepreneurial side of things that you've been talking about. I then had the problem of thinking, right, how can I do this? Well, actually, just before I'd started that job, I had some savings. I'd bought, believe it or not, a lot of people laugh at this, but I bought a very small bouncy castle business, and what that meant was that I could generate my own money in my free time. So every weekend, although I was working during the week, I used to go out and rent these bouncy castles, which was coming along nicely. And over the few years that I had the business, I'd started it from scratch, obviously, bought one bouncy castle with my savings and then bought more. I ended up having about 5 in the end. And I was still single at the time, so obviously I had the time on weekends to do this. So I was building up sort of quite a nice little cash fund there. And so I'd had the idea of starting up my own business doing the fabrication, but I didn't have a wealthy family. And although they were from a business background, but unfortunately with the recession that happened around that sort of time, they fell foul to that, unfortunately. So that was a massive learning curve. I learned a lot from my parents with that. So I couldn't go to them for any money, and I didn't want to go to the bank because I'd seen what my parents had been through with the banks, which eventually took them under, unfortunately. So what I did was I decided to sell the bouncy castle business for a little bit of profit, and I bought a franchise milk round. My thinking behind it was, it was going to be long hours. If I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I could generate enough for a wage, over time then I could hopefully save some money and then start my own little business. And that's what I did. So after about it was probably about 3 to 4 years of doing the milk. In fact, I saved enough money after 3 years. And what I did was I then opened my own little workshop, which had very small rental on that per month. And I'd had enough money to buy some key items of equipment that got me going. So what I ended up doing then was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, working and doing the milk round, getting the wage, and then going to run the business. And I put an advert in the Yellow Pages, as it was then. Now, obviously, everything's online, but it was then the Yellow Pages, and that got me going. And that's pretty much it. And ended up, after about 5 or 6 years, I ended up selling the milk round for a profit because I'd gained the gallonage. I'd doubled the the gallonage on that, so I saved that. Sold that, and I could concentrate on the fabrication business. And then over a couple of years, I managed to take on 2 members of staff. It was actually a full-time chap and a part-time guy, and with myself as well, we managed to sort of keep the business going, paying the wages and paying the rest of the overheads. And that was going really nicely until about 3 years into that period. One of my employees, the full-time employee, sadly was killed by accident. So he obviously was a good friend of mine because we all sort of got on well. I was at that point in business where I needed a further cash injection to either take it to the next level or basically duck out. I've actually missed an important bit out there. I also, during the period, once I'd set on my first lot of employees, I actually went back to college and became an electrician. It was a 3-year course, night course. So I studied that for 3 years and became a qualified electrician, and that allowed us then to go out and get bigger projects, which was door automation, and that's where the company kind of moved into. It moved into the door automation side, so we kind of became more specialised. Hence the reason why we needed injection to move on to the next level, because we were coming up against sort of very professional businesses. And as I say, sadly, we were just getting on our feet and making some good money, and this incident happened, and sadly, Mark lost his life, and I was with him at the time, which made it all the more worse. So I was at a crossroad in my life where I thought, right, what do I do now? Funny how things happen in life. Shortly after that happened, one of my very good contacts, a client that used us regularly, based in Hull, a lot of business, but he wasn't, by his own admission, he wasn't a very good manager. So he'd known me a long time. He said, look, why don't you come and work for me? Which, to cut a long story short, is what I did. So my first management role was basically working in Hull, so commuting from Leeds to Hull every day. And I did that for just over a year. I was then approached, so I managed his business there, got his electric department up and running, and got his teams working well. I was then approached by a local business in Leeds who was doing the same thing, but had a much better vision, and the carrots he was dangling were much bigger as well. So I thought, right, now's the time to move on. One of the reasons I did move on is because this new business said that they were happy to put me through university. Strangely enough, at school, I never really got on academically. I could do it, but I was never really focused or driven. It was only when I became an adult that I realised that actually I quite like it. Unfortunately, the business that I then joined didn't pan out. I was with them for about 5 years. I started as the electrical manager. I was then promoted after 2 years to the general manager, and the next step was directorship with shares. And for various reasons, I realised that it wasn't going to go that way. So I decided to move on again, and I was it was another colleague of mine that told me about the job where I am now, and I decided to make the jump. So I'm now working for a company called Howard Technology, based in Bolton, but we do work all over the UK and the rest of the world as well. I've done many projects in Belgium, and I started as the operations manager, and we basically build hospitals and operating theatres, and clean rooms, specialist clean rooms. And I'm now the operations director, and they very kindly agreed to put me through university. So I'm now in my final year at university. I've done all the exams and the essays. I've just now got to complete the dissertation, which I'm on with. I have to say I love it. What I will say is it's not easy, but I knew it wasn't going to be. I think the thing that I've found most difficult is managing it around my family, because obviously now I'm married and I've got young children, and I think that's been the most difficult thing. I love reading, I love writing, I love studying and understanding new things, but you've got to find the time to do that, and have a young family is very difficult. So what advice I would give to anybody that's in the same boat is to make a plan and try to stick to it the best you can. What I found works for me is little and often. In the first year, certainly, and I think the second year as well, I always kind of left things till the last minute, and thinking that I'd have plenty of time and I could get it done. When you start reading, I find that you get engrossed in it, and suddenly you realise that you've done a lot of reading and you've got to then write it up, and you don't have enough time, and I would always panicking. But by putting a really good plan together, a time zone plan, so that maybe every night after work you'd do an hour reading or something like that, and then at least every working day week you would do some form of writing for say 2 to 3 hours, wherever you've put that, so long as you've done that in that break. And then on a weekend I made sure that I only worked half weekends. What I also found really useful was making sure the family knew that what was their time and what was my time, so that what that did was that meant that I was never saying to them, yeah, I've just got to finish this and I'll come back to you. They would know at say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, my time was their time, and then we could go out and we could spend the day together, the afternoon as a family. That helped a lot. So that's the advice I would give, and what I would say from the experience overall so far, I would say I've realised that, because when I went into this, I thought, my God, what am I doing? I'm now in my early 40s, really need this. And I think it was Bindi that in my group that I heard her saying that she wanted to do something last year, but it really didn't work out for a particular time. And I think what I would say is, if you really analyse it, you could probably argue, when is the right time? You're always going to find something that's going to get in the way. And I think the first thing is just that step, and understanding that it's not going to be a walk in the park, but with the right attitude and focus, you can do it. And that's pretty much it, really. I think the best thing I did was actually making that step in Italy, going to the open day at university, and actually putting pen to paper and saying, yeah, I am going to do this. Because then you know that you've got a plan, you've got a starting point, and you can build upon that. And to be honest, I've never looked back.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story, Jason. That is amazing. I think you've really put a point across there that with hard work and like Alex said on the chart, resourcefulness and resilient, and it's never too late. Bev on the chat has also said that she's 56 shortly and she's wanting to do a business degree, and absolutely age should not be an issue here. Myself, I started late as well. I didn't start studying really my degree until I was in my 30s, and now here I am, a lecturer at University of Leeds. So a little bit of Ida family as well. So you can do it, absolutely can do it. And I'd just like to say, from my perspective, Jason is an amazing student who works really hard. The support is available when people want it. Is that not right, Jason?
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right the way through this. I mean, obviously we've had I've had quite a few lecturers right the way through, and I have to say, it's been great. Everyone's got a different perspective on things, but every single one has been really supportive right the way through this.
Yeah, and I think that's underpinning what we do at the Lifelong Learning Centre, is that we are able to, we specialise in mature learners as well, and part-time learners, and we really understand some of the challenges that you might face, and we're all really supportive. Thank you so much, Jason. That was really informative, and I'm sure that myself and the team just want to say thank you very much for that.
No problem.
So what
Best
I'm
of luck
do,
to everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Okay, so now I'm going to pass you on to Claire. No, I'm not. The slides are different.
It's okay. We haven't got much time, so I'll just very quickly say we're having a student finance session next Thursday the 16th of July. And if you could join us for that at 2 p.m, that would be lovely. We'll post the link in the chat shortly. But just basically don't worry about the finance. There is financial support. You don't pay up front. The lower the income you're on, the more support there is, and you don't start paying anything back until you're earning nearly 27,000. So I won't dwell on the finance, but I'm sure Jason would probably support the idea that it shouldn't be a reason to put you off studying if there is something you want to do. And thank you, Jason. That was fantastic. I'll hand over to you now, Claire.
Hi there. Obviously, time's marching on, so I'll just very quickly go through the programme structure, because obviously, if you're considering starting the course, you won't take all of this in anyway, but this gives you an overview of the type of modules that you'll be looking at. It's very much looking at business management and leadership, and an overview of the different areas that you might either be working in or looking after. So the way the course runs is exactly the same as a full-time course. So you've got 2 semesters per year. It's 4.5 years. Sounds a long time, but if you talk to anybody who's actually on the course, it goes so fast. It goes faster than you actually think it's going to be. So each year you will have you'll carry out your modules. At the beginning of each semester, we will give you out a programme handbook, which will tell you when the assessment dates are due. So that's any assignments that might be due in. You might have an exam to do, but everything is decided in advance so that you know what dates you're working towards as far as the course is concerned. You'll see just very briefly the figures in brackets, so the 40 and the 20 are the credits that go towards the overarching degree. So those are the credits that you need to pass in order to get your degree. And really sort of the first 3 years are very much operational elements, looking at the various departments that you might be working in. And then year 4 and year 5 are the strategic elements, looking at the overarching direction of an organisation and where it might be heading. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because as I say, it's a lot to take on board. But if you want to know any more detail or any other information about the modules, feel free to either email us or we can arrange a phone call.
Thanks very much for doing that, Claire. So it would be really good to have some questions from the group now, and if you'd like to say any more about the programme in terms of the assessment, any of our tutors who are here with us today, please feel free. So if people want to put their hands up or post questions in the chat, it would be lovely to hear from you. And Claire or Louise or Joel, do you want to say a little bit about the types of assessment?
Yeah, sure. As you can see on the board there, we do have a variety of different teaching and assessment methods. Everything in white is the teaching method, and the assessment methods there are in blue. So they're pretty self-explanatory. We do have a mixture of lectures, we have seminars, we have guest speakers coming in. We do quite a lot of group work, just to build that sense of community and friendship as well. In terms of assessment methods, we have written reports. There could be case studies that you might use a business case study, for example. We have presentations. Those could be individual or group, and we have, of course, exams and time constrained assessments. So it's just a variety there of different teaching and assessment methods that can fit with your different types of learning styles as well. Yeah, Alex, you've got your hand up.
Hi. Hello again. I wanted to ask, are these degrees are specifically for people who haven't really got a degree in the past? Is that right?
That haven't got a degree in the past? Yeah. I mean, it's specifically for people who maybe work full-time, that haven't had the traditional routes of qualifications. So you don't have to already have a degree to be able to come onto this course. In fact, pretty much most people don't.
Yeah, there are finance implications if you're if you're a graduate already. So we need to have a bit of a chat with you about that. There are a few exceptions where people can do a second degree, but usually it's difficult to get funding from Student Finance England for an equivalent level qualification.
Yeah.
So it does make it harder. But so it's postgraduate options you're looking at then, which don't always need to be related to what you've done your first degree in.
Thank you.
All right. Bev, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. I have always struggled with writing assignments. And that's probably to do with the fact that while I was at school, university wasn't a thing that they thought about for you. So they never really sort of inspired you to be able to do those things. So I still had that mental block. So I'm definitely going to be applying in September for this degree. But what can I do between now and September just to, you know, build my confidence up to tell myself that I can do it? Because I have the same thing when I studied, you know, in 2007. I used to really get myself worked up.
Claire, have you got any thoughts on this?
I would say if you haven't done anything at all, or it's the first time for a long time, I would be considering doing perhaps some reading around some study skills, getting a study skills book out and looking at the element of how to structure assignments, or even just a general introduction to management business book, just to start doing some background reading would probably be good.
Okay.
And it is worth saying as well that the very first module that you do, which I'm just going to flick back, that one, business environment, can you see that there? That is a mixture of study skills and looking at the business environment in its entirety. So we teach you how to write reports. We teach you how to reference source material. We teach you everything that you need to know to then feel confident to write a report. So I think if Jason was still here, I think he'd back me up on that. In that first module is absolutely key in terms of preparing yourself for all of these different assessment methods.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah, because
so we do teach you it, so you don't have to come pre-prepared.
Oh no, I just sometimes think as a mature student, you bring, you know, your negatives from when you were at school.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Yeah.
Think, well, like, yeah. I mean, I've been through it before, but I can still feel that slight anxiety coming back.
No, and that's totally understandable. So as Claire said, maybe get a study skills book out. You might be able to find some things online as well. And that will really help to try and get your mind focused on what you're going to be doing in September. Let me just answer Manira's question, case study. So that, for example, we might ask you to use your own workplace as a case study to maybe look at the different styles of management, or we might even give you a case study, say as Apple or Google or another big company maybe, that you are then asked to do some research on and then write up a report on that case study. Does that answer your question, Manira? Great. Okay, Olivia, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in response to Bev's question that we also have a program called Kickstart, the Lifelong Learning Centre, because most of the degrees, and this one in particular, have been specifically designed for mature students who may have been out of education for a long time and may not have had a great experience when they were at school. There's a lot of skills built into the program itself, as Louise and Claire have outlined, and you're also invited to take part in a course academic skills session, or it'll be online this time, of course, but it's led by our academic skills team, and that's fantastic because it can really help you kind of get up to speed by the time you're starting. But because we've got a dedicated academic skills team, there's an awful lot of support built in to any of the programs at the LLC as well, and you can have one-to-ones with tutors who can read your work and give you feedback, and there's lots of background. Yeah, Jumpstart is the pre-entry course that people sometimes do, Lucy, before they decide that they're going to go for a degree, and it's a kind of free taster course. And Kickstart is the academic skills program that you do immediately before you start your actual degree. They're very close in their titles. Is it available now? Yeah, Jumpstart is available. It will be starting again in September. And yes, once you've got your place on any of the degrees, you'll be offered a place on a Kickstart program to help prepare you, get ready to begin. Any final questions or anything that you'd like to add, Louise or Joel or Claire?
No, I've got nothing to add. Should we just move on to the next slide then?
Yeah. Thanks, Lucy, for saying that you can recommend Jumpstart. I think it does really help people, particularly if they've been out of education for a long time. Just to say, if anyone would like some advice and guidance, this is for anyone who hasn't already got a UK degree or equivalent. It would be lovely if you could contact us and speak to either Denise or Mohammed to have an appointment to talk through all your options. Obviously, these are happening over the phone right now, but it is an invaluable chance to really reflect on what you've done in the past, where you'd like to get to in the future, and what might be the most appropriate way to help you get there. And they're completely impartial. So if the right route for you is at Leeds Beckett University or Bradford University or anywhere else in the region, or not to go to university at all at the moment, they will help you make that choice. They won't just be trying to push particular courses. So has anyone got any final questions, comments? It would be really nice. We're going to put a poll up on the screen shortly, and it would be lovely if you could give us a little bit of feedback on what you've thought of the session, just in terms of whether useful for you in your decision making. And we will also be posting a link to the evaluation form in the chat shortly, which is very, very brief. I can reassure you. It's just a few questions online because, as you'll know, we've made this transition very quickly to online working, and we're trying to develop and improve all the time. So please do let us know what you've thought of the session. If just you can either do it straight away, or we'll also email that to you after the event as well. FBI is asking, just wondering how to apply for the PHE course. So if you just email Lifelong Learning Centre at leeds.ac.uk, we can put you in touch with the right person to make an application. And yeah, PHE, preparation for higher education, we're having a taster for that on Thursday evening. That can be a really nice route in for people who haven't already done a access course or any kind of similar preparation course in the past. Thank you very much for filling in the poll. So you'll be receiving a follow-up email after today's event. I'm sorry that we have run over time. We're very grateful to you all for joining us. Thank you, Jenny, for posting the lifelong learning email in the chat there for part-time applications. I'm going to end the recording session now, so thanks to everyone who's been with us.